Well, we've never done this before, so we have. Because we have legs, I didn't want to do an open today because I was going to just be repeating the same talking points from an open that was probably going to be too long, and then get into it all over again with legs and then lay out. So believe it or not, we have different interview strategies based on the interviews here. So I just want to talk hoops. For the most part, let legs talk about the hoops with a game one for the books. The Pacers keep this thing rolling. Once again, just unstoppable in those clutch moments. When you think they're out of the game, they are not. So they take the first one in Oklahoma City. So we'll get to some of the coaching decisions in this one, some of the no-shows on the Thunder side, and how the Pacers got back into this game after a very erratic first half for them. So Pacers take the 1-0 lead. We'll break it all down on what's next with legs. You're listening to the Ryen Russillo podcast presented by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook has made it easier than ever to get in on the action during the NBA Finals. And with live betting, the tip-off is just the beginning. Look for the live SGP tab on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and build your bet slip. Then sit back and enjoy the game as you track the outcome of your parlay right in the app. If you don't already have it, download the FanDuel app today to make every moment more. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of this episode for additional details. Must be 21 and older and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. The NBA Finals kickoff last night in dramatic fashion. Pacers with the bucket from Haliburton coming back in this, taking game one at OKC, and it's probably the best guy we can get on right now. I listened on the pregame. I saw him with Van Pelt on the postgame. It is Tim Legler, one of the many voices at ESPN on the NBA. Okay, Legs, so the Pacers get this first one. There's just so much stuff we both want to get into here. If you had to give us kind of a headline on how the Pacers did it, what's the thing that stood out to you?
Okay, so I think it would be, first, I would have to just say they survived that ridiculous display of ball security. Okay, that's really, to me, what we're talking about here, because normally, Ryan, Oklahoma City in general, on average, will take every turnover they get and convert it into a point or a point and a half. That's what they do every single night. I mean, typically, you turn the ball over like even, say, 18 times in a game against Oklahoma City, you're going to get anywhere from 20 to 25 points, like somewhere in that range, converted the other direction. They turn the ball over 20 times and a half. And I think at halftime, they only had 9 points off of those. So a very, very strange thing happened in the first half of that game. That should have been, by Oklahoma City standards, a 25-point lead at halftime, from which Indiana's not recovering. So to me, that was the story of the game. The fact that they were still standing right at the end of that, you certainly, obviously, the fourth quarter still played out in a very strange way, the way that they were able to just cut that lead and then end up winning the game. They're not even close to position to do that if they don't survive that. And some of it was Oklahoma City not converting them. Like, they had numbers and they missed layups. They missed threes in transition. But a lot of it, if you go back and look at the first half again, look at the effort and the commitment from Indiana to get back. It's simple as that. Like, sprint after the turnover to cut the ball off, force them then to reset on a possession in which they don't score. I thought it was really, to me, the biggest story in the game, because no one survives that against Oklahoma City. And first of all, we don't even see that to that extent. That's absurd. It's the most, I think, they ever had in a half in the franchise history in any game. And they survived that. You don't do that against Oklahoma City. And so that, to me, is the biggest storyline from the game that kept them in it to keep throwing punches, and eventually they start making some threes. I thought Oklahoma City started to look very tentative. They were waiting for the clock to run out, I thought, the last 3 minutes of the game. And Indiana just keeps playing, and then here you go. But with this, to me, the storyline is the first half. Just the fact that they didn't get buried for an avalanche of points off of those turnovers.
This is a possession sport, like anything. And you sit there and you look at like, how are you handling your possessions? And then what is your field goal attempt advantage off of these turnovers? And you're absolutely right. Like I remember looking at it and going, okay, it's not just 19 turnovers in the first half. It was 18 more shot attempts from the Thunder. Yeah. And you're supposed to be down 25. The total number on this, which again is to your point, 25 total turnovers by the Pacers. So they cleaned that part of it up in the second half. And it's only 11 points. To give up only 11 points to this Thunder team on the 25 turnovers. And, you're right, too. At the start of this game, one of the great things about trying to figure out this series is, okay, the Pacers are great with the basketball. They don't turn it over. But actually, the Thunder are even better in that regard, at least for this playoffs, for this season. And you're watching this happen. And maybe it was because the turnovers it was pretty clear that they were, I don't know that they were uncomfortable. I don't know if the Pacers were uncomfortable. I think RJ had a good line during the broadcast where he was like, they actually, as fast as they want to go, they need to slow down a little bit. Like they're going a little too fast. It's leading to just some of this carelessness that you don't expect from this Pacers team. But the fact they're down, at the half, 12 points?
12 points.
Right then, you're going, how are they only up 12 the way the Pacers played? When I watch a game, how much I'm writing, I'm doing and taking notes literally at every trip up the floor. I'm writing something so I can remember it later to break it down. And I'm telling you, I don't know how many times last night I either said out loud or wrote, how is this a 8-point game? How are we in a 9-point game right now? Like I just kept saying it because none of it added up. None of the measurables added up. To think that Indiana just won a game in which they turned the ball over that many times against the number one team in the league at converting those into points and didn't have anybody go off. This wasn't like a 40-pointer out of Siakam. This wasn't Nesmith in game 1 against the Knicks. This wasn't Haliburton game 4 of that series. None of those guys went off. They played a very mediocre offensive game and they turned the ball over 25 times and they won. It's one of the most improbable things you're going to watch because of their opponent and what we've been watching all year. I mean, Ryan, I called probably 5 or 6 OKC games this year. I think 4 in that building. And in every one of those games, at some point, it's a barrage of conversion off of your mistakes that you don't recover from. And they hit you with these things. And to your point, in the first half, I'm watching Indiana and I literally was going, man, I don't know if this is like a situation where, okay, this is the finals and we're just, our brains aren't processing stuff. Was it a matter of, okay, maybe we can't throw pocket passes against this team after the 4th one got stolen. Maybe they're really good at their guards at getting their hands low when we come off ball screen and try to throw that little pocket pass to the slip guy. They're so good at having their hands low already. It's almost like they're taught it or their instincts are that good collectively. At least 4 of those they threw away. Maybe we can't just force the ball into Siakam if he's got a smaller guy on him and they're fronting. That was 2 or 3 of those. And I saw that repeatedly in the Minnesota series. Like Randall couldn't catch the ball because they were fronting him and he'd end up on the sideline, like pinning a guy still, calling for the ball. And it's like, dude, get out of there. Like you're not going to get it against a team this quick. They had 2 or 3 of those. And so I don't know if it was just, wow, man, this is actually, we saw this on film. We played against this a couple of times this year. But wow, this is even faster than we remembered it being. So now we got to be much more careful with the ball placement on where we're going with it. And they adjusted to it, cleaned it up in the second half. When this team gets shots, this is one of the toughest offenses in the league to guard. I don't care who you are. And that's really what happened. The second half, they got shots, and particularly in the fourth quarter. And then Oklahoma City contributed to it by getting, I thought it just a little bit, I don't know, just they slowed down so much that they got out of their own rhythm offensively. There's definitely some stuff on OKC that I want to do here offensively, but staying on the Pacers with this, I think you're right. Like when you're not ready for OKC's defense or the opponent thinks they have some sort of mismatch, but it's a very predictable entry pass or it's a very predictable first thing. I think they invite that. They're like, great.
I
like,
agree with you.
You think you
I agree
have
with
this advantage? Like, great. Now we know exactly how to determine help. And where so many teams just go, all right, we got the switch we wanted. Okay, now we're doing this, and now we're going to throw it over here, and you're going to let us get into it. OKC's like, cool. We know exactly what you want to do. But to your point about no one necessarily going off, that's what I loved about this fourth quarter from the Pacers. This was like the full display. This is what the Pacers can be at their best when it feels like everybody's getting involved. Mathurin has a couple early makes in the fourth quarter. You have the Neesmith three in the right corner. That was an insane make. The Nembhard three where he just works SGA, and then Nembhard takes another one, air ball, and Siakam, like the second time he's in place, he actually, on the air ball one, he beat SGA to the spot, and then you had the Turner bank shot. So this was like the full display of the team effort with Haliburton closing it out, which speaks to, at times we're like, what does depth actually mean in the playoffs? I think we've gone in circles on that one a lot, but this was like a showcase of who the Pacers have been all season because you're not quite sure who you're going to get it from. And I also think for the most part, other than Nembhard getting the ISO and kind of working it against SGA, trying to figure out how to get space, they were really quick. And also not, the last possession, it's like, we're just going. We're going. And that had to be at least a great learning experience for Carlisle in this group, at least after game one. Like, now we understand the speed. Now we understand what they're just, that's always the reminder of the Thunder. You cannot dick around. You have to make a decision and you have to be committed to it on offense.
It's very true. I think Indiana probably, to use like a boxing analogy, they went back to their corner, like after like the first round, they were like, oh, all right, this guy's pretty quick. Like he's faster than he looked on film. And then you make the adjustment, and that's what Indiana did. They got shots, and they're as lethal as anybody if they get that. What's crazy is, so here's Oklahoma City, and they're forcing all these turnovers, and everybody's just like, oh my, look at this defense. I never seen anything like it, And I'm thinking to myself, yes, some of that's true in the first half. Some of it is that. Some of it is just Indiana. Like, what the hell are you doing? What are you looking at? Like, I could see from where I'm sitting on this sofa in the green room watching this game, I could see that there's no angle to make that pass. So it was a combination of the two things. And then I think what happens over time, you realize, like, okay, we're turning the ball over, but you know what else? They shot 48% for the game. Like, so it's like when they were getting shots, they're such a good shooting team and they have so many guys that can make shots. If they just get one up, very good chance it's going in. So that's the one thing. You look at this game and go, wow, as good as Oklahoma City was defensively in the first half, as sloppy as Indiana was, when Indiana got shots, they were still making shots. And so it's just a matter of, man, let's just take care of this thing and let's make them work a little bit more. And they did. And, it was fascinating to watch the shift in swagger right before our eyes from about the 9-minute mark to about like the 3-minute mark, a complete shift in certainty. And you saw it. You could just tangibly see it at OKC. They were slowing down possessions too much. It was very one-dimensional. They had super quiet nights out of jail, and Chad Holmgren, I don't think I said his name the entire game. I don't know if I wrote his name down on one card that I was making notes for this game. Not once. So they had some guys really underperforming. It was all Shea. And Indiana was just like, man, we're going to roll the dice. Like, this one dude is not going to get enough to beat us tonight if we hang around. And I saw that shift in the look in their eyes was just different in that moment. And Indiana, once they get to that point, man, they just feel like, now look, to your point, Ryan, any one of those 3 or 4 things you mentioned go different, they win the game. Siakam doesn't crash the boards on that play, on the air ball, and he was in the corner. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was face guarding him and tried to block him out with a face guard block out. Siakam chucked him to the side, caught it late in. What if Siakam goes like half-heartedly toward the rim and starts to like get back on defense? They lose the game. If he doesn't get the extra free throw on the lane violation, they might lose the game. If Turner doesn't bank in a 3 from the left wing, they lose the game. So a lot of things still went perfectly for them, but it all started with the fact that they got shots and their offense is formidable when they do it.
Okay, let's talk about the Thunder in the fourth quarter. You're absolutely right. I watched the fourth quarter again this morning, and it was another one of those games where you're watching it going, they lost this game, and you're thinking if just one of these threes goes down. So they were 0 of 5 from 3 in the fourth quarter. All 5 threes are great looks.
Yeah.
There was the Jalen Williams stretch where you could tell from the last regular season game, like he's not afraid of Neesmith, but they were hunting Thomas Bryant, which you're going to try to do no matter who you like. Anytime he's out there, it's like, okay, let's try to get this guy. And then it was a lot of hunting Turner. The Pacers brought Haliburton back in at 9:42 because I want to talk about Dagnall and his decisions last night, obviously with you. SGA comes back in at 7:44. And one of the things that I think we all admired what the Celtics were offensively, but knew they became really Hunt happy, and that was their downfall. Did you see too much of, because like you think of, all right, you want to get Haliburton in the action, you want to get Turner in the action. Granted, it sucks when no one's making a three around you for the entire quarter, but I would agree with you that then those possessions, once it went from a 12-point game to like a 4-point game, it felt like there was a lot more tension for OKC in those moments.
There definitely was. And I'm just telling you, even, this is how it kind of works in the building. That place, they blew the roof off that place. It's as good an environment as there is in the league right now when they roll people. That anxiety in the stands is transferred onto the court. And you could feel that start to happen too in the fourth quarter. And that kind of affects you, the way you think. And there was one guy that looked kind of like normal in terms of his approach to the moment, and that was Shea. Nobody else looked that way for OKC, which is surprising on a team that going into last night had won 80 games this year. But they weren't in as many of these kind of moments as most teams are going into the finals to that point. And it felt like there was this like shift in their confidence level. And next thing you know, man, they're very stagnant offensively on those last possessions. Even the last look, Shea got a great look. Okay, a great look. That's his bread and butter, mid-range lean back, probably 18 feet. And Haliburton, he had separation. It wasn't like hand-on-hand contest. He got a clean look. He makes that, again, probably win the game. But it was like the whole possession and the two prior, it just didn't feel like Oklahoma City was taking the approach like, we are going to knock you out on this possession. It was a little bit too much hoping, not enough certainty. And I think that to me is what I felt. And that's what really shifted this. And when he misses it, they're not calling timeout. Carlisle getting a lot of praise for that. Listen, I am a guy, and it's very circumstantial if I'm going to call that or not if I'm coaching. In that situation, I really believe this because I think Rick Carlisle's this smart. Because I feel like I'm standing on the sideline. I think I would pick up on this. When the ball came off the rim, Oklahoma City had 4 defenders on the opposite side of the floor from Haliburton and in the backcourt. Meaning there was this clear space and ability to get him the ball. If that's jammed up or muddled or guys are like spread out and Haliburton's kind of crowded up I bet you Carlisle would have called timeout. Because it would have been like, he's going to have to run back and get it. And like the fact that he could see, like we have good spacing here to go up the floor. He decides not to call it. I thought in that situation, it worked. You go back to the playoff loss Boston had against the Knicks early when after the free throw and Missoula doesn't call it. You remember that game? He go, oh, well, we just ran this action and we got a layup out of Jason Tatum. I'm like, yeah, right. Think the Knicks are going to allow that to happen again? You're going to go length to the court with 11 seconds with a timeout? He doesn't call it. I would have absolutely called that after the free throw. Live ball situation, totally different than a made basket or a dead ball. It's just totally different the way you process it as a coach. So I thought it was a good idea to play it out. Haliburton comes up the court. They don't force him to his left hand. 3 different times he stopped, went right, stopped, went right, stopped, went right. The third time he finally got to an open space and went up over the top of the one guy of the 5 perimeter defenders they have, he would have picked to play against. And he got it. And he got the shot knocked down.
Yeah, and I was watching Caruso on that play again, and Caruso's caught in the middle. And I still think
Yeah.
Caruso made the right play because he probably wasn't going to get into the contest once Haliburton got into it. And then I thought what Caruso did was actually really smart because you're talking about Haliburton, who's still available to make the pass really late in the possession. We know how he is.
Yeah.
He can jump. And look, chances are he's still pulling up, so it's easy for all of us to say sell out and double and have Caruso crash into it. But he tries to get back to Siakam because Siakam's going to be wide open if Haliburton decides like last second to do it. And Haliburton's certainly capable of doing that. I love the no timeout. I love the no timeout against OKC. And there's another thing that happened here because I had a couple different things on this because, you know, the offense with the Thunder, they still scored 25 points in the fourth quarter. There's a lot of free throws in there, but even if you have the MVP and you're thinking about like what you want to do and what you want to attack, I think that stuff, a lot of that high screen that this league is in love with, it just feels that it can become a little predictable. And then it also, you know, I think the human nature of basketball is that when you know you're only there for spacing, like that's such a credit to Siakam. And I'm glad you made that point. There's a lot of guys, even in the NBA finals, that would be in the corner that would be like, I'm not running all the way in there just in case it's a loose ball. That's a winning play. But I think over the course of like a game, there's just guys that are still thinking about getting back on defense, especially when you're talking about two teams that want to play at this kind of pace. But you're so right about Chet. I didn't notice him at all last night. Doesn't mean he's going to have a bad finals. He had a bad game one, but the Thunder went small at 324. And then I imagine Carlisle was probably like, cool. If you want to go small, because they take Turner out at 307. So this game closes the last 3 minutes smaller and ultimately like kind of removes the Turner hunting part of this. And at least Toppin is more active. And then Toppin, we even throw his name in there, considering all the threes that he made as far as the offensive team balance part of it. So on the small decision, I mean, it's easy to know the result here, but how did you feel about that from the Thunder?
I'm completely agree with you. Rick Carlisle saying to himself, if you guys want to play small versus our small, I'm going to take that because I think overall he feels like his five he'll have on there are better collectively offensively than Oklahoma City's guys. I think that's what he believes. One advantage for Oklahoma City, and again, I know it's hard because of Miles Turner and his ability to shoot the three, and it's a long recovery and run out for one of your bigs. Their advantage is that when they've played two bigs against most teams, like those two guys have great chemistry. They're both versatile defensively. Holmgren and Hartenstein can both hedge hard on ball screen. They can switch occasionally. They track guys to the rim. They're very good at interior passing and throwing lobs to each other once the ball goes in the middle of the floor. And you took that off the table, really, in at least last night. They got beat by 17 on the glass. And this was a problem for OKC last year. They were getting thrown all over the place. And we're like, that's the one thing that they don't have is a little bit more beef up front. And you're thinking with Hartenstein added to the mix, what that does is let Chet roam more defensively to collect rebounds, because then he's probably matched up against a small forward. And Hartenstein's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, like in the banging with some of the bigger guys, the Jokic's of the world, who they got him for probably, the Anthony Davises of the world, like guys like that. And now Chet can run loose, go in, collect rebounds. Chet can roam more defensively as a rim protector. They took that off the table last night. There was no differentiating factor with their two bigs at all. And as a result, Indiana is like, this is fine. We like this. Because what Indiana's going to do to you is, and it was even more apparent when they had five guards on the floor, or four wings and one big, they overcommit like to the drive to such an extent. And it's shell defense 101, and it's like as good as it gets in help and recover. But they are so on their toes, man, ready to go on any penetration on the weak side of the floor. Indiana took advantage of that and that's how really they got back in the game. The threes they get like later were shots that you shouldn't be getting when you're trying to protect the lead if you're Oklahoma City. And they gave up because their instincts are flood the lane on any dribble penetration. And now some of those closeouts, you're not going to get there in time. And Indiana, I said going in, they had to have a +3 or +4 made 3-point margin per game to win. They have to do that. They have to shoot the ball like that. What was it last night? +7. So they're +21 from the threes. This is even better than I said. And it really is the reason they were able to be positioned to win the game. I thought Oklahoma City making that adjustment right off the bat, like, oh, we're going to adjust to you guys. Wait a minute. You're the 68 win team. You have home court advantage. You're the favorite, prohibitive favorite to win this series. Why are you already going in saying, I need to adjust to Indiana? I think it should have been the other way around, knowing that you're not going to play those two guys together as much as you normally do. I just thought the approach was, we can't play them together against you guys. I thought it was a bad approach. And Dagnall is one of the smartest guys I've ever met in basketball. I don't think he had a great game because of that.
Okay, so there's a lot on that part of it that I want to dig into here because, again, referencing that March game, Chet didn't play. Hartenstein was the primary focus of the Pacers' attack. He left, didn't come back in the second half because of hip soreness, but he played 2 days later. And I was like, okay, well, if anything, I don't know how much of this is relevant. They really went after Hartenstein. I thought Hartenstein's minutes clearly were better than Chet's last night, but you've noticed the game log here that they're more comfortable with Chet as these playoffs have built to close. They like that better than Hartenstein. So then Wallace comes in, and Wallace actually starts on Haliburton. So the only thing I could think of is there something they felt like with the attack with the Pacers, or are they messing with them, being like, hey, Dort's not on you right away? And granted, Dort ends up with Haliburton a ton. I was trying to figure that part of it. But then you add in, like, Wiggins gets his 9 minutes. I was legitimately shocked AJ Mitchell was in the game. Like, at that point,
believe it.
Like, you're thinking, dang, no, it's like, is he just fucking with everybody here?
Yeah, no, seriously, listen, Ryan, at one point, I'm sitting there watching the game, and I kind of, I'm like, I take notes. I turn my head for a second. I look down. I look back up. And I literally was like, who is that? I'm like, oh, AJ Mitchell? Okay, interesting. Whatever. 4 minutes. I mean,
Yeah, whatever. That's not the game.
He didn't swing the game or anything,
no.
But it's like, but 4 minutes. Hey, listen, I do respect this. 4 minutes, get 3 up. That's Dave. You're preaching to the choir.
I think he got his 3 up in like 30 seconds, by the way, because they were all
get yours up. That's all I got to say. You're in the finals, young man. You get 4 minutes, get 3 up. Good for you. It didn't turn the game, but it was. No. But it was like, what the hell? It's like Dagnall just found like some loose change in his car. Like, oh, what's this? I haven't seen AJ Mitchell, man, and I like AJ Mitchell, by the way. I think the kid's going to have a nice career in the league. I was like, whoa, okay, this is interesting.
He's played in 3 playoff games. I mean, real
that's
playoff
what I'm saying.
games, like real minutes. He's played in more.
I don't understand. I don't. AJ Mitchell probably was like, huh, when he heard his name. Really?
Okay, so let me get back to this because I do know that, like, whenever it's brought up, players hate this. RJ brings it up last night. Like, what are you doing? You're starting with Wallace, and this is not the reason they lost the game last. I don't think, but RJ's basically saying if you're in the locker room and then that they decided to change up everything that they've done, it's like, hey, look, they're adjusting to us. Maybe this is my non-playing career speaking out, but it just reminds me of like the high school coach where it's the team isn't as good and he's just like trying to come up. He's like, they're in our place, in our history, it's all this stuff. Then you run out of the tunnel and you're like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. These guys are a lot better than us. What if OKC just said, because of all the ball handlers that the Pacers have, because of the way they attacked Hartenstein, because of our comfort with Chet here, and because Wallace is a really good player, we actually want to prioritize these minutes and maybe give them a different look. Is it really the mental edge? I guess I push back on a mental edge that I feel like the former players feel like is a much bigger deal than I do.
I just think that, no, look, the mental edge component probably is not even really what I'm talking about as much. I think you have this team that's operated a certain way, and certainly most of the postseason, they've operated a certain way with certain lineups, particularly the start of the game, start of the second half. Like, this is what we do. And I just think the fact that you're addressing your team and you're, okay, we're going to go with this. Right off the bat, no one's expecting that. And it's kind of like, oh, okay. So right off the bat, you just kind of like, you're like thinking a little bit more than you should be, rather than just like, hey, this is what we do. And all coaches are going to say it. It's more about us than them. If we do what we do and do it well, that's all that really matters. There is some truth in that. And I think that it just kind of just makes you take give a pause a little bit. Like, okay, that's interesting. Like, thinking about the reaction to those guys, like processing that. All right, we're going to change up our starting lineup for these guys because we're worried about something with them. And I'm going, okay, I think Chet could guard Siakam reasonably well at the start of the game. And I wanted to see what would it look like against their lineup, getting on the offensive glass and attacking them where you get the pick, the dive, hit the guy in the middle, and here comes the other big slashing along the baseline. And how does Indiana defend that? Like, that's a problem for a lot of teams. It's been a problem. They break you down and collapse you because the ball gets in the middle of the floor, and you still have another big running the baseline or under the basket. They didn't really have to deal with that really at all. So the game became more of our strength now. Like, you guys are putting a lineup out on the floor that's better for us. That's how Indiana viewed it. Now, listen, despite all of that, they turned the ball over 20 times in the first half, okay? So something was working for OKC. I get it. I thought that had more to do with Indiana than Oklahoma City, to be honest, those turnovers and the way they were playing offensively. It was just like, what are you guys looking at right now? Calm down. Once they did, and certainly during the comeback, like, this is very comfortable for us if this is what you want to roll out there. And I'm very curious to see what Daigneault does in game 2 a little bit differently. Because first of all, you're going to feel Chet. I think Chet probably went home last night, and he's a very competitive guy. And I think he looked himself in the mirror, was very disgusted with the fact that he had no presence in that game. So he's going to be more of a force. And I think maybe Daigneault gives him more of an opportunity to do that. And one way you would do that would be you play two bigs together. I think you'll feel Chet Holmgren more. Let's see, though. Let's see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just don't feel like that works against this Pacers team.
32 rebounds between Siakam, Haliburton, and Nesmith.
Yeah,
last night. Let's talk about Haliburton and Nembhard, which is something that I noticed. I noticed in that regular season game. It's something that I think is so simple. Coaches don't do enough. And yeah, a bit of a rant. It's just, hey, that regular season, our best player is awesome. We want him to have that ball in his hands the most because the points per possession tells us when he has the ball that this is who we are on offense. So let's just run more of that. I think the analytic influence has then, kind of changed. Like, this isn't a longer thing, but there are single offensive seasons that we look at historically and go, holy shit. And then I would argue, yeah, but the game has also evolved, good or bad, into prioritizing your best player having the ball more, which sounds like really simple. Like, of course, if this is our best player and this is what the math says, then he should have the ball all the time. However, I think there are very clear examples of how that approach is completely disrupted once you get to the playoffs. And if I'm another player, or if I'm a coach on the other side being like, okay, he's awesome, but if I always know what the fuck it's going to look like, I'm just going to get more and more comfortable over the course of a game, over the course of the series. Something as simple as Haliburton, and in this case, Rick Carlisle, trusting to have Haliburton off the ball so much more at the start of the offensive possessions because of the trust in Nembhard. That is one of my favorite things from last night. I'd like you to talk more about kind of like how that works.
Well, yeah, no, that was an obvious, tangible thing that they changed in the fourth quarter. Because look, Haliburton is a guy that I feel like you have to impede his forward progress. And in some cases, that means when the ball comes off the glass and Indiana secures the defensive rebound, I think Tyrese Haliburton is better than any player I've seen since Steve Nash at catching the ball up, moving forward up the floor on the outlet pass. It's not an easy thing to do because there's all kinds of traffic. You've got to find a way. And also, if you do it too late, it doesn't matter. So it's got to be timed perfectly. As the ball's coming off, you kind of are already surveying what angle can I take to give myself the best path to give the outlet guy the best way to find me while I'm moving up the floor. Oklahoma City is going to take that away from you. They're going to jam you up. They're not allowing those outlet passes to come up the floor. They're also not going to allow him to do what he did for the most part, the entire Knicks series, which is when he does get the outlet, now first guy he sees in resistance is over half court because now he's coming at you fast. He gets a little brush screen downhill to his right hand, owning you. And they're not going to let you do that either. And it's going to wear you out. Look, he's not big. He's very slightly built. He's not a physical player. It's really handsy in the playoffs. OKC's got more handsy guys than anybody in the league. They're all over you with touchy-feely stuff, jamming you up. And I think Rick Carlisle was like, this is going to be like running in mud if this is what we're going to force the issue with this. Nembhard can handle the ball more than capable. He's actually a very good decision maker. And he's got some pop to his game offensively. As you saw with that step back he hit, like he can also do that if that's what the situation requires. I thought it freed up their offense to the extent it needed to be in that moment to allow them more possessions, quicker, shorter possessions with quality shots. Because if they have to eat up 18 seconds with Haliburton, coming up, he's feeling pressure, gives it up. Nothing happens. He runs and gets it back. And okay, now you're down to 6 on the clock. You're not going to have enough time to pull off what they did. Nembhard allowed them to get into that stuff quicker with Haliburton off the ball. And I thought it was a great adjustment in the moment. And in this series, it's going to be important that he has a major ball handler responsibility because of the number of guys you could put on Haliburton that affect your forward progress and get you playing more sideline to sideline. And that's a win for OKC. And in that stretch of the game, Indiana was able to get up the floor into the teeth a little bit and then spread you out and make threes. And it's how they erased that deficit.
After the Knicks series, well, let me give you 2 parts. I voted Haliburton All-NBA, right? Had him third team. I've never thought about him as a top 10 player in the NBA. This Pacers story, Bill and I had talked a little bit about, like, if you look at this Pacers roster, is this the roster that you want in the East the next 5 years? And I was like, well, look, I still kind of default back to what I've always accepted as like the primary rule in the NBA. If you don't have one of those top 5 guys, if you don't have like number 1 and number 7, maybe in the new financial world, it'll be different. The Pacers are the first test of this, or maybe this is just a really, really great team that is tough, is improved defensively. They have a great coach, and maybe this is kind of an aberration in roster building and all this kind of stuff. But as you bring it back to Haliburton, I was thinking about it more because then after the Knicks series, it was like, hey, this guy's probably a top 10 player, especially after that brilliant 30-point game with 0 turnovers and just like a flawless basketball game. Is there something about Haliburton that we have to understand that's beyond just, he's not getting you 30 every night? Okay, it's just not the way that he plays. But they're 8-1 in clutch games, and it's not just about the game winner, but there is this control of the game. Certainly, there's a confidence in his game that is everything you would want in a special basketball player. But is there more to him quarterbacking a team offensively that is more of a benefit than maybe the other stats we always attribute to the top 10 players in this sport?
Definitely. And I've adjusted my analysis of him as a result. I don't have a choice. I used to be, like even last year, he had this meteoric rise right in front of our eyes.
The first half of last year before he got hurt.
Mid-season last year.
Nuts.
Yeah, exactly. It became literally, he was the biggest talking point in the league in like December, right? You're like, man, like I knew this guy was nice, but this is absurd what he's doing right now, all through the in-season tournament and like all that, right? And then like, so now you're watching him a little bit differently. The ceiling's been moved. So you're like, clearly, okay, so now my expectation level and the ceiling on this guy is different. So I'm judging him by that standard. And you're like, okay, there's some uneven nights in here, like, which is why, again, the level that you give guys and whatever adjective you want to use, there are levels to this thing. And like the guys that are truly reserved for that really top special place, they have that because they do it every night. Literally every night. Doesn't mean they have great shooting nights every night, but it always looks the same. It looks the same. And usually they do get to their number one way or another. And you're like, that's why that guy's a superstar. That's why that's a franchise player. Because hell or high water, no matter what the circumstances, what the defense, or what kind of night they're having, somehow they get to their number. And they do it every night, and it always looks the same. Haliburton, I'd watch him some nights, man, and I'd be like, he looks so passive. I don't understand it. And what I've come to learn about him is what I now probably was overreacting to his passivity, and I do still think there's some of that is true, particularly Game 5 of the Knicks series. After that game he had when he basically, like you said, it was if that was a quarterback, it's a 158.3 QBR. That's what he did that night in Game 4. Okay. Yeah. And at Game 5, he comes out and it's almost like he anticipated to himself, he's having an inner voice saying, well, there's no way in hell they're going to let me do that again. So I'm just going to come out and let other guys do it. Like, because I was like, they're not really up in you like to that extent. So there's some of it is still true. But what I've learned, Ryan, is this. It's more, this dude is in complete control of kind of like ultimately how he wants to play and how things are about to go. And he has this incredible quality during pressure moments of being able to maintain the exact same muscle memory, which is what derails a lot of players in high stress moments. Your muscle memory fails you because you're overanalyzing, you're going too fast, something breaks down mechanically, you're just not processing things the way you normally do the rest of the game. He has that rare ability to process things exactly the same way as if this is a game against the Wizards on a Wednesday night in November. Last night, like in that moment, that's how he's processing it. That's how his muscle memory works on the big shots. And that's why now I'm going to analyze him a little bit differently when he looks a little bit quiet or you don't notice him for stretches of games. I'm still expecting there to be a splashy finish to this, or at some point he's putting his fingerprints all over this, even if he hasn't to that point in the game, where I used to, like, the next day I talk about the game and like Haliburton last night and I just kind of go in on him a little bit. Like, I don't get this guy. I think I'm gonna pump the brakes on that stuff a little bit with him because he's earned that right.
Attention sports fans, we've got a big day of games this Saturday, and FanDuel wants you to make the most of it. That's why, for one day only, America's #1 sports book is giving all of its customers a 50% profit boost to use on any bet across any sport on June 7th. You pick the game, you pick the wager. Feeling confident about a matchup in the MLB, golf, WNBA, add a profit boost, or maybe you think you know who's winning the big fight. Whatever. If FanDuel has it, then you can boost it. WNBA slate for tomorrow. Golden State taking on Vegas. Golden State's getting 10.5 points here. And if you're paying attention, Veronica Burton finally, with some opportunities, putting up big numbers. I mean, you want me to tell you that Golden State's good on offense? They're not. They're a defensive team, 9th in the league. But we know this about Vegas. They don't pull down the offensive boards. Never have. So too many points for this guy, Golden State, plus 10.5. But this offer is only valid for June 7th, so don't miss your chance. Visit FanDuel.com/Ryen, RYEN, to join today. Make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Must be 21 and older and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amounts. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. This episode is brought to you by Uber Eats. Summer is here, and you can now get almost anything you need for your sunny days delivered with Uber Eats. What do I mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get chicken parmesan delivered. A day in the sun? No. A bottle of rum? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. For alcohol, you must be legal drinking age. Please enjoy responsibly. Product availability varies by region. See app for details. Okay, I have a number for you, and then I want to also ask you one last question on the way out here. So I was looking at like some of the best players in the sport and just looking at usage rate, which I think tells a good story on like how much a guy has the ball. So if you look at Luka's usage in the playoffs, he right now is at 36.4, which is the highest in NBA history. And not surprising when you think about like the 22 team. I mean, he has back-to-back. Now, granted, it was the 21 series, and then 22, they made it to the Western Conference Finals. Those are back-to-back playoff runs with a usage rate north of 40, which is unheard of, okay? I mean, the only time you're ever going to see 40 is like Westbrook has like that all-time year when he won the Triple Crown, essentially, in the MVP of basketball. So Kobe, his usage rate in the playoffs was 31. He's got a 34, a couple 34s in there. Giannis has, for some playoff runs, he's got a 35. He's got a 39. He's got a 37. So it's up there. Haliburton, this year, his usage rate for this Pacers team, as they've now played in 17 playoff games, it's 22. 22 is a really low number for your guy that carries you. And, if they win this thing, the credit is to him accepting that and not needing to be the 30% usage guy, not needing to take more shots, not getting to kind of his default numbers, even if it's inefficient. Because you're absolutely right. Like the historically best players, it's crazy how often it's like, Larry Bird doesn't have 6 points. LeBron James, whatever you want to say, but like there's not going to be the playoff dud where there's 0 points in there during the prime years for these players. Haliburton's usage in comparison to how we would stack him up against the other top 10, that's just not something that happens. But it's not that surprising considering the way he approaches the game.
I love the number. I didn't have that number, and I'm going to absolutely steal it. So just giving you a warning. You're going to hear that shit on other places. Speaking of usage rate, mine's up heavily in the NBA Finals. My own personal usage rate soars during this time of the year, and I'm all about it. So I'm going to steal that one. I actually heard another great number last night. I don't know if you heard this one. So in the NBA postseason this year, in a situation with 15 seconds or less to go in the game, shots to tie or take the lead in that situation, last 15 seconds of regulation or overtime, the rest of the league individual shooting percentages in those situations, 4 for 27. Tyrese Haliburton is 5 for 5.
That's just not supposed. Yeah, it's not supposed to happen.
That's one of the most incredible stats I've ever heard. I actually had to get Stephen A. actually said it on the segment I did with Scott last night. Researcher had given him that number before he came out there, and I was like, so we went to commercial. I'm like, give me that number again, because I'm going to be all over that, all over that the next 48 hours and all the different hits I'm doing. I just think that's one of the most incredible statistical anomalies you've ever seen. Or is it an anomaly? Is it just what this guy is about? Like, he clearly feels super comfortable, man, releasing the basketball from his fingertips with heavy consequences. And not many guys are, man. They just aren't. Not where you feel exactly the same as you do in an inconsequential game during the regular season. And so it's actually like his senses are heightened, and he's still able to just maintain what he needs to make sure that ball is soft, it travels the right distance. He gets to the spot on the floor that he's comfortable, and then he makes magic happen for this team. And it's like, I'm still sitting here, Ryan. We're the next morning, halfway through the morning, and I'm still kind of in a state of shock that they won that game. And maybe I shouldn't be anymore, but Oklahoma City has been so much better than the rest of the league this year that it's just really kind of incredible what Indiana was able to pull off last night. And it's great for all of us because this is going to be a lot more drama in this series now because of that. And I think now we're getting a long one. We're getting a 6 or 7 gamer. There's no question in my mind.
For the record, Bird had 2 8-point games in the finals against Houston there in 81.
Don't you ever blaspheme Larry Bird.
Well, just 164 playoff games, as I said. I was like, there's probably a dud or two in there scoring-wise.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's...
All right. All right. So what are you looking for? What's the first thing you're looking for to understand how both sides just dissected the film from game one?
Well, I actually think you're gonna see, I think, a more physical effort on the part of Oklahoma City, because I think they're going to watch the film and be like, particularly the fourth quarter of that game, and not recognize themselves on either end of the floor. And typically what I've seen at Oklahoma City is when they have one like that, the very start of the next game, the level to which they're up in you, the level to which you're feeling them defensively, you're going to see that at the very beginning of the game. And I'd certainly, Indiana can't turn the ball over to that extent. I don't think they could try and do that many times in the first half. So they'll be better than they were in terms of ball security. I think Oklahoma City's overall defense and contest rate and challenging you and what they do on the glass and on the offensive glass, I think it's going to be a different approach. It's interesting how 1 9-minute stretch can completely shift the desperation, right? It has, because Indiana wasn't necessarily feeling desperate last night, but you did feel like, man, if they lose both of these games in OKC, this is probably a 5-game series. That's how I felt about it. And now they've already gotten one. Do you have any idea, like, the amount of pressure in the building going into game 2? And what Oklahoma City typically has done when they feel some of that, that's how they come out and start the game. And just, it's almost like this, just like reminder to everybody in this building, this is what this shit looks like when we are at our best. And I don't know that they feel any part of that game was them at their best. The turnover's great. Not converting them, that's a team I didn't recognize, that they didn't turn that into cash money the other way. I didn't recognize their lack of certainty offensively in like when the game on the line. They definitely looked like they were stagnant and they just wanted the clock to run out. I think you're going to see a different mental approach at him now. Will he adjust, go back to the two bigs, see what Indiana does about that? I wouldn't be surprised. And if I were him, I never would have gone that way he did last night in the first place, truthfully, not at the start of the game.
Yeah, and if it's tight, will he choose to go small? Because we're totally aligned on that. I think Carlisle and those guys are like, fine, because now we're taking away the defensive target because Toppin's more mobile, and then Toppin's hitting threes again. I think the Pacers love their small center lineup and would probably be afraid to bring it out, especially if they're playing two bigs. Maybe there's some advantages in the possession and movement and having two guys having to chase it around. I mean, basketball can be funny that way, but over the long stretch, I'm sure Carlisle was happy about that. So we'll see if that happens again. But I'm with you, man. At 94-79, McConnell inbounds the pass from the baseline. It's a turnover. J-Will goes the other way. They're up 15 points. Granted, it's 9:27 left, and the Pacers find another way to close out one of these games. And you're right, 25 turnovers, 11 points, only 11 points. That's hard to do, to only score 11 points off of 25 turnovers. So credit the Pacers defense for getting back.
And last thing I'm going to mention, because we haven't mentioned his name, you just did, and I have to give TJ McConnell a shout out for this reason. I thought in the first half he was the only guy that looked normal. Like TJ McConnell looks exactly like he looks every night. And the way he continues to impact the game, like as a scorer, still amazes me. I mean, this guy just comes in there and he still finds he gets buckets in such a short period of time. If TJ McConnell does not have that little mini run he had, they're down 16 to 20 points at halftime. And this is a different outcome. So it's little things like that you don't even notice. It's so innocuous and buried in the play-by-play and the line of the game. He had a 7-point run at a time in the game that they weren't doing anything, and they were turning the ball every possession, and he hits a three. He gets a short little jumper. He gets another layup in early offense. I don't remember if his other bucket was in the first or second half because he had 9 points in the game.
He didn't have a bucket. He didn't have a point he may have had a free throw. He doesn't have a make. He doesn't have a field goal make in the second half.
That he had all 9 points in the first half.
Yeah.
I knew it was 7 at least because it was in a very short period of time. So he had another basket too. He had 9 points. He doesn't do that. They're down. I'm telling you, they're down 16. They're down 12 as it was. They're down 16, 20 points. And I don't know they're coming back from 20. So he kept him in the game. And he looked comfortable. And I just was like, man, I love this guy. How can you not love TJ McConnell? Like, he comes out there and like, well, dude, guys, this is how it's done. Like, what's the deal? But everybody else is like looking like the ball is 400 degrees. They can't wait to get rid of it. And it's like, he just comes in there and settles everybody down and does his thing. And it's a 12-point workable margin at halftime. It's funny that play you mentioned when he threw the out of bounds play away to Thomas Bryant, because that was totally Bryant's fault. Bryant didn't release to the ball. He was sealing the guy, and he was like, had his hand up, McConnell throwing the ball from the baseline out toward like the top of the key. And he's like, yeah, release now and go get it.
Yeah, he sealed it like he was getting a post entry.
That's
pass.
what I'm saying. Release. And when Jalen Williams picked that ball up, was going in for the dunk, I'm already looking at McConnell. And actually, like George Sedano told me, because he was doing sideline for radio, he was in the huddle. McConnell was like basically ready to fight Thomas Bryant. And I'm going, I had a play. I remember in a game one time where a dude did that to me, and I threw the ball at him. It was in practice. I threw the ball at the guy after, because I'm just like, sometimes you get so frustrated with the lack of like IQ in the moment. Like, dude, do what you're supposed to do. So that's kind of McConnell's fiery personality. They needed it last night. They needed every one of his 9 points in the first half, as innocuous as they seemed at the time. I'm telling you, it kept them within striking distance and set up what happened later in the game. So I wanted to give a mad shout out to TJ McConnell for the way he played last night and settling those guys down when he came into the game.
Was it Joe Wolf?
I'd rather not say the name because I never know. Could get back to these guys, and I don't know what. You never know. Some of these guys could have done time, and they're like out now.
Right.
You know,
leave me out of it. I don't need.
I don't need that. So I don't. You never know where these guys end up. It was not. I will say it was not Joe Wolf.
All right. Good. I'm glad we were able to clear his name.
I love the Joe Wolf reference out of nowhere. You're the best. Yeah.
TJ didn't have any free throws, so all 9, you're right, in that first half. This was everything I wanted it to be. You've been everywhere. Thank you for giving us some time. And promo anything you got, because I know you're working literally every hour.
I'm literally getting 5 minutes from now. I'll be going on All City NBA podcast, doing my thing with Adam Arez. We do that 4 days a week. So we were, of course, just breaking down everything you saw last night, looking ahead to game 2. And then this time of year, there's no telling where I'm going to be. Every day I get hit up with new requests. And of course, obviously, I'm always going to make time for you, man. So I love coming on.
All right. Good stuff. Enjoy the finals.
See you, man.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. That's the email to get in touch with Wargon or Kyle directly. What an amazing opportunity. You thought you were having a bad week? Did you know that little fact? All right. Let's see, man. The 6-minute mile thing will not end. People are all over the place. People either upset with me or saying people are confusing it with pace. It is fast because I
might be confusing it with pace. I don't know. 8 minutes is fast? Or are we saying 6 now? I feel like the number's changing and the context is changing. I don't even know.
I did ask our guy, Jonathan Frias, who's our video guy. He's like a real runner. He ran the LA Marathon a couple months ago. He said under 5 is very good. So he's taking it one step further.
That's insane. That's not what we're talking about here. Do we read one more of these?
Oh, man. Fine.
I don't know.
Runners or Raptors fans who you got more beef with these days? Probably runners are rising the ranks.
No, I don't think so, because it's all over the place. It's either you're totally right, and then there's other people who are like, do you understand how fast a 6-minute mile is? And I did double check because, again, I used to try to run a 10 miles an hour, I think, or whatever it is, like a 10 on a treadmill. I would see how long I could do that before I just felt like I was going to die.
You're in the danger zone.
Yeah. And I don't know that I ever could get the full mile. I usually could get it like at 0.8, and I would just be like, all right, you're going to collapse. And I was always afraid because the treadmill, if the treadmill's going, it's not really up to you.
Yeah.
It's easier on a treadmill too.
On some CC footage.
Take some longer strides. The belt goes a little more. Yeah.
You can cheat the belt.
Yeah.
See, that's something I don't know, because now I don't use it anymore. That's for sure. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to read a ton of these. So let's just get to one of them or two. All right. A kid tried to steal my golf brush. What's up, guys? Love the pod. 6'2", 240, 27-year-old male. No notable gym stats. Player comp Boris Diaw, below the rim post finisher who can knock down a 3 and feed my teammates. And Boris could really pass. I went to the driving range yesterday. I was hitting out of a practice bunker and went back to my bag to clean my clubs off with my brush. And it was missing from my bag, but the clip I had on it was still there. Retraced my steps, but no brush. I scanned the area, and sure enough, I saw the exact same brush hanging from a kid's bag. I confronted the kid's dad, with whom he was there, asking, "Did you guys find a brush laying over there?" The dad said no. "Well, I lost the exact same brush that is hanging from your son's bag," I replied. "Oh, well, we picked one up, but that is ours."
What?
further context, it's a quality $25 brush, and I'm pretty confident the dad is better off financially than I am. I had about 2 inches and 40 pounds on the dad, though I would never let it escalate physically. The kid, approximately 8 years old, had no course etiquette, as he almost hit me with several errant chips before I had even realized my brush was missing.
How old did you say the kid was? I just missed that part.
8. I was chipping the other day, and a kid started chipping off of the green, but he was like 11.
Big no-no, right?
Right before shithead phase. So he was the introduction of a book to shithead. And so I said something. I was like, dude, are you going to chip on the green? And he ran off. And then his dad was over there. His dad was looking at me. And, I wasn't like outrageous about it. But I mean, it's just such an obvious thing. Like, don't hit your fucking wedge on the green. And the kid was nasty too. So maybe he just was like, I can pick it right up off of this and not damage the green whatsoever. But I think most golfers would frown upon that, and something needed to be said. And I was really nice about it. But I was like, are you really going to do that? Maybe I could.
You were really nice about it?
He's
okay.
like,
Okay.
To me, that's being really nice about it. I mean, what's a nicer way to do it? Hey, man, it seems you're a shithead.
hey, buddy, come take a seat over here. Let me talk to you about this.
Yeah. So the dad and I argued, causing a scene around the practice greens and drawing attention from bystanders. I was embarrassed, almost caving. The dad was loudly dropping F-bombs left and right. His story didn't make sense, though, so I stuck to my guns. The dad's main argument that he had purchased the brush a year ago, lost it around the same time, but somehow picked it up over by where my bag had been. I mean, this guy's
crazy.
Yeah, the story, you busted him, and then he just decided to try to go over the top. Which is... Isn't it great when you're catching somebody in a lie? Because a lot of times people have that surprised face.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what you're going to say to this. I can't.
Yeah.
Even if
They're
this doesn't
lying.
work out, this moment is worth it.
There's somebody I'm thinking of in particular that I know when this person is lying, they do like a big eye surprise, and then the lies start to happen.
I'm just going to tell.
Like, yeah, it's a terrible, terrible tell. But I can always, I'm just like, all right, see where this goes. Of course, he declined with the excuse, wait a minute. I told him he was setting a poor example for his son and asked to see his receipt for the brush, planning to concede the argument if he could prove he purchased it. I don't know. I'm not carrying receipts around every day.
Man.
Yeah,
unless you're about to get audited. I don't know.
Yeah. He declined with the excuse that he bought it a year ago. Then he asked to see my receipt, of which I mentioned I'd gladly provide a digital copy. I even asked the kid, I guess you could argue that, hey, don't delete the emails. I even asked the kid directly if the brush was his, and he shyly gave no response. Ugh. See, I think that's the thing. Even though you're right, when you start asking the son, who's 8, in front of the dad, now the dad thinks he has license to like do whatever he wants because now you're talking to his kid. I mean, you've seen that transaction enough. Like, leave my kid out of this. Although I can't remember any time I was caught up in a situation where I would, I don't know. Clearly, you knew they stole your brush, so I don't blame you for that part of it. I guess you just, I don't know. I would try to keep the kid out of it as much as possible. The dad stormed into the pro shop with this poor kid, demanding to speak with the manager. I followed behind assertively, though trying hard not to scare the kid any more than he already was. Dad was still swearing, causing a scene. I calmly pled my case and pulled out my receipt from the Dix app. The kid finally chimed in. Well, mine has clear water in it, and his has soapy water. Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. I got the kid in a lie, given there was no way he could have known that I had soapy water in my brush if he never picked it up. The dad slammed the brush on the counter. This was finally an opportunity to reclaim my brush, so I did and took it back to my car. After they left the shop, I went back in to apologize to the staff. I got a beer in the clubhouse to cool down. When I saw the dad storming back in with his kid, I quickly exited and drove away to avoid further confrontation. Could have I handled the situation better and charged it to the game? Is there any chance that dad's son may have been telling the truth? Uh-oh.
No.
No chance?
It sounds like, at first I was like, it sucks when you think you're like, you think you got a kid doing something wrong and you're like, oh, I'll just tell his parent and this will be fine. And then you realize like, whoa, this is a totally different game plan. They're running Wildcat offense. I don't know how the fuck to deal with this. The
Dad's in on it.
Is worse. And now I'm thinking the dad grabbed it up and was like, here, son, this is how we do this. Like, I don't think it was like hey, the kid grabbed this thing and put it on. I think the dad may have saw it and be like, look at this. Just got your new brush. What kind of cool dad I am. So I think this was totally. I don't think this is the dad just like going to bat for his kid no matter what. I think this is maybe the dad did something wrong, and can't just be like, all right, yeah, we don't take stuff we find on the ground. It's not a teachable moment because the dad probably did it right in front of the kid. That's what I think happened. I don't think this kid grabbed it. I think the dad did it, hung it on his bag, and like, got you a new thing today, huh? How about that? So I don't know. This is messy. It's certainly messy. You'd like to think when there's an adult in the situation that they could keep things, within a certain parallel. And it sounds like this guy was not doing that. I'm not sure what I would have done. I might have let it go. I don't really know. This is
$25 brush. You're letting that go?
I don't know. I mean, the guy's saying no, and now it's like him and his kid against me. And when I feel the tides turning, where maybe people are going to be like, just because we don't like the situation, you're the bad guy. We're not going to blame the kid. Like, just because, golf courses are supposed to be kind of like, there's a certain amount of etiquette, right? People aren't supposed to be yelling for the most part. You hear the occasional fuck when somebody hits a bad drive, but for the most part, there's like, people are supposed to be on a little bit on their good behavior. And whenever if there's like an argument, you guys are screaming, I think everyone just wants it to stop. The guys on the putting green want it to stop. The guys waiting for they all want it to stop. The pro shop people. And if there's a chance that whole thing might just get turned around and be like, all right, dude, you don't have the brush. Possessions is 9/10. We're not pulling up security cam. I might just be like, I could see all this coming and I'll bow out. So kudos to you. I'd be thinking about not saying anything once it got to a certain point. I'm glad you got the brush and left. At what cost? But you won.
I don't know what you're supposed to do differently. This is insane behavior from the dad. We need to bring back shame. People just don't feel shame anymore. And it's absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine teaching your 8-year-old son that like doing things like this is okay? And like, we're believing our guy and like same clip, soapy water, like we're giving him the benefit of the doubt here. I can't even believe it. Right. Soapy Watergate. I can't believe that the dad is just okay with this.
Political humor. What do you feel shame about, Wargon?
Try to do it for everything,
Really?
Try to feel shame for everything.
Yeah.
You okay, dude? How would a jury feel about the cross-examination of the 8-year-old? I mean, the 8-year-old's testimony is pretty damning here, but would they go... I mean, the fact that, honestly, the way it's phrased, based on what the emailer's telling us, the kid is describing what his brush was like. That's kind of it. I mean, if it's a movie, there's noise in the courthouse.
That's the glasses scene in My Cousin Vinny.
The other thing is, this dad obviously is pretty like tuned up intensity wise. Why did he relent? Why did he give up the brush? So really what I'm here to figure out is, sure, there's a small chance the emailer's completely wrong. I mean, and I still remember it. It was 20 years ago, and I'd had a couple basketballs stolen at this nice gym that I belonged to, because people steal shit. Like, there's a gym here that has a basketball court where I like to have a bag, a little duffel bag when I work out, because of some bands and all that kind of stuff or whatever. So like, if I want to get some shots up, you can't bring the duffel bag in. And it sucks. I got yelled at one day. I was like, what are you doing with your bag in here? I was like, what I'm doing with my bag is not stealing basketballs. And the guy's like, you got to put it in a locker. I was like, okay. So I went, put it in a locker. And then you start to think, like, this is another one of those things in society where those of us that have no intention of stealing shit are inconvenienced by the people that steal shit. And so I had a couple balls stolen that I would leave behind in a locker. Yes, they were stolen. It's I guess some of you would say that's your fault for leaving a basketball in a locker and not locking it up. But, I would still think the person that steals is more to blame. But I had lost a couple, and then I saw a guy with a ball, and I didn't like him for a while anyway. And I was like, hey, I opened the wrong locker and it was empty. And then I saw somebody with these. So I was like, here we go again. And I was like, can I see that ball a little bit? Or something, and he was like, what?
Awkwardly.
I was like, can I see that ball? And he was like, yeah, sure. And then I looked at it. I was like, fuck, this isn't mine. And I was like, hey, here you go. He's like,
Thanks
what'd
for
you
letting me
think?
see that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I've had a couple stolen. He's like, so you thought this one was yours? I was like, yeah, I did. I was like, I thought it was mine, and it isn't. He's like, yeah, who could ever imagine 2 orange balls named Wilson in the same area at the same time?
Great comeback from him.
Yeah,
Damn.
he just let me have it, and I fucking deserved it. And then I found like the right locker, and I went, oh, here's my ball, here's my stuff. But I was already
You were tuned up.
like ready to go because of past historical events. So really what this is about is, sure, there's a chance you're totally wrong. There's a lot of evidence that tells you you're not wrong. And the fact the guy got so crazy about it usually means, like, my experience is that person is like going so overboard, they're compensating for the lie in this case. Granted, somebody could just completely lose it because they're accused of being a thief when the guy bought the brush. But the fact that this guy was so incensed about it the whole time and then gave up the brush tells me you were in the right. That's just a guess, though.
Yeah. I had a similar thing like this. I was in 9th or 10th grade, I think, and I was going to Crush Fitness right next to Arlington High School. And I brought this guy who I kind of knew as a guest pass.
So not Crunch?
Crush Fitness. Yeah. Crush, not Crunch.
Okay.
However, there is a Crunch in Poughkeepsie now too. But
place is blowing up.
Yeah. And then so we go in the locker room. I bring him as a guest pass. I think it was like after school one day. And he spends like 20 minutes in the locker room while I'm outside. This is before I was like, doing my GPS thing. This guy steals from multiple people in the locker room. There's like on camera us being in there and then me leaving. But I guess there's no camera of whoever was going through this locker. Anyway, the cops are involved. This guy who had his wallet stolen is like yelling at me. I don't know what the fuck's going on. This guy didn't even tell me that he stole it. He wasn't like trying to split it with me. He just used my guest pass, just robbed a bunch of guys in the locker room, like robbed the lockers, and then worked out like nothing happened.
Then he worked out. What a great alibi.
The guy is screaming at me. Turns out the kid who actually robbed it, his dad's a cop, a detective. They're now like, he's like, I don't know if he's like on the case against me or something, but the kid's dad is a cop. And it was just, I remember it was so screwed up, and I couldn't believe I think his dad came to my house and was like, it was crazy. But that was another example of like a kid who's maybe stealing and a dad who is fucking insane, just protecting his kid. I don't think I ever went to court. I think the kid maybe eventually admitted and gave the shit back, but it was like months of like, the cops are against me. What the fuck? This kid's crazy dad, who's a detective, was just like, admit it. I was like, what the fuck's going on? I brought your kid into Crush just to try to get him on his fitness routine, and he ended up robbing lockers, and now I'm mixed up in it. So I don't know exactly how that translates. I just thought that was a good story.
I don't care if it translates or not. I just love that you were caught up in it.
Yeah.
Like, not this. I love that you mentioned that it wasn't even a plan, and there was no plan to split any of the proceeds with you.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of confrontation, need an update on the office guy fighting the old guy on the roof over a desk. You're right. We do need an update on that. So if you're listening,
was I going for that one?
Might have potentially. Been. Yeah,
it might have been. Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah, it was a real power play dynamic in an office. It was kind of like open seating, so the guy would get to his spot earlier. So, or his office being renovated, so the other part, lower level employees had open seating. There was a place where the emailer always sat. Then the other guy sat there, and then he would go in earlier, and then he'd be like, get out of my seat. And then it got to the point where the guy was like, meet me on the roof.
Boxing gloves or bare knuckle?
Sounded like bare knuckle. It also sounded like nobody was going to fight anybody, to be honest with you. It sounded like the
thing you say, baby.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm not
how you doing?
You
don't really want an answer.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the emailer got his ass handled.
And that's the end of that.
Yeah, hey guys, checking in. Went and met him at the roof. Guy's a badass. Just got out of the hospital.
Sitting at a different desk now. Yeah.
Looking for new work. Also maybe able to retire at 27.
Right.
Okay. This is for Kyle. This is a good one. Student exchange in LA. Hey lads. Uh-oh. An international listener. Thank you.
Nice.
6'1", 155. Biggest I've ever been. I'm on the bulk, and it's been a grind. Why is gaining weight so hard? There's a lot of people listening to that sentence hating your guts right now. Look, everybody's got a different ladder going on inside of us. So I think you should be happier that you're on that side of it. Although, hey, man, I get it. It was really frustrating for a long time. Couldn't put him in weight. Comp JJ Redick, if he wasn't an all-time great shooter. I'm writing this because I need advice from the LA locals who aren't going to BS me. I'm a 22-year-old uni student headed over to LA from Sydney, Australia, for 6 weeks on a short uni exchange program doing sports business and media. I'm obviously really excited, and I've always wanted to travel to LA, given it's basically a cultural touchstone of everything I love, sports, media, and film. I'll be studying for around 2 days a week, so I've got some decent flexible 2 days a week.
Yeah, you do. Jeez.
Yeah, look out. How did you get this approved? Although when I had roommates that went to Australia, I was like, what kind of work did you do over there? They're like, I did nothing.
It's more about the intangibles, you know?
I think one guy failed 2 classes, like going into his senior year too. And
wow.
Then he ended up having, like, he got to walk for graduation. But I was like, how mad are your parents? And he was like, they're so fucking mad. Like, at least I'm walking. But as soon as I get back to New Jersey, I have to take like 2 community college courses that UVM
just to get this thing under the wire.
Yeah. I was like, so what do they hand you? They're like, it's empty.
It's just like a leather book thing
it was
you
like,
give back.
He's like, all because of Australia. I was like, what did you think you were going to be able to do? He's like, pull it off is what I thought I was going to be able to do. He's like, next thing you know, you're in New Zealand and being like, what's going on? I got to hand in something. So guys were all over the map. It sounded like it was just a big, I don't know. One of our friends went to Ireland, which you don't hear a lot about. I think he got his nose broken. Actually, that's 100% true. I don't think. I know he did. But I think he got all of his credits. So I don't know. You tell me who won. Anyway, so here's the deal. Everyone I've talked to in Australia has pretty polarized views about LA. I either think it's the best place to live or the worst. So I'm coming to the experts to ask what I should know, where I should go. Any tips on LA culture? I'm obviously keen to go out and socialize, network, and meet as many people as possible, but I'd appreciate some guidance on how and where to do, including tipping stuff. I've also heard LA is unlike most cities where instead of a city center or district that everyone goes to hang out, there are pockets or smaller areas that all spread out from each other. I also don't have a driver's license, so I'd imagine I'll be Ubering everywhere since LA is so huge and there's no public transport. Any particular... All right. So, Kyle, why don't you take this one? Because I think you're better armed and more informed as a local than I am.
Not really. I'm kind of set in my ways. I think you're probably have, larger horizons than I do. It's amazing how many things I don't know just that are bumping right up against my little pocket that we're talking about here. So I don't.
That's true. There's so much stuff. I see like tourism ads for California. I'm like, where the fuck is that? Like, oh, it's 2 hours away. Huh. It's
Would you
so
look
bad.
at that?
Yeah. My God, I'm going to check to see if my passport's updated. Actually, just get on the highway. I don't know. Well, look, I don't know that I'm going to relate to a 22-year-old all that much. I like the beach towns. Other people don't. And then some people are more like me and like if you're going to live out here. But if you're a student and you're 22, come on, Kyle, you got to be able to come up with something. What was the train thing? Let's start there.
Well, the train, get the red line. That'll bring you like basically between downtown and Hollywood. And then there's a few stops in between. I don't know why you'd be there, but you could totally do that. Yeah, definitely Uber. I'd stay off the bus if you could. Did that for a while.
As a bus vet?
As a bus vet, I'd say stay off the bus and just don't do the scooter, man. Especially if you're new, you're riding on the road. What side of the road do they ride? Melbourne over there? Opposite. Okay. I'd maybe stay off the scooters. People hate you. You're only here for a short time. You know, you want to be liked. There's Hollywood. I'd say West Hollywood's pretty sick. You probably like West Hollywood or the Wilshire area, Fairfax. There's a bunch of pockets. You probably going to have to see the Frolic Room once, but you're going to see that's not going to be your daily. So I don't want to push that on you. I'm really kind of my weeks are like, all right, when can I squeeze in a golf at Roosevelt?
Could this guy meet you at Frolic?
Could he?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't give him my number or anything, but yeah, he could.
All right. So how about you do that? When you're getting close, man, just email the show again and put like bold alert, whatever, Kyle, Australia, and maybe he can meet up and do a
Ask
Frolic
Troy at Frolic. Troy will know what to tell you.
Okay. That was a
Black
terrible
dude behind
answer.
the bar.
We didn't do this, but honestly, that's kind of it. Everybody knows their little neighborhood. And that's it. I would tell you the people that have watched LA coverage on TV, I thought this place was like the worst. And then I came to visit and I was like, I can't wait to move here. So don't let people telling you, the people that are just like looking at certain footage going, that place is the worst. Don't let them trick you into it. By the way, Wargon, quickly with the left side of the road. Japan, quick. Where do they drive? Left or right?
Don't know. Wish
Germany.
I did. Don't know.
Right side in Germany.
I've been to Australia, so I know.
I thought maybe this was something, a gift,
No.
another gift from
No.
Wargon. Like, you know what he's great at? He knows every side.
Instinctively know.
Right. Like, Russillo, here you go. All right. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks to Wargon. Thanks to Kyle. Thanks to Jonathan Frias. If you want to hit us up with some Friday feedback, it's fridayfeedbackrr@gmail.com. We'll do a YouTube only on that. Subscribe to that page and check out our video pod now on the Spotify app. Ryen Russillo Podcast, Ringer Spotify.
They were going to name me Michael Jordan. My dad was like, I don't think he can live up to it, so they named me Michael Jared.
Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is there. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.